Greetings. This is Positivologist Lynette Turner, and welcome to the Positivologist is in the House. This is a show that focuses on the power of living our lives with a positive attitude. So this does not mean that we don't have challenges in our lives. We all do. And to live our most fulfilled life requires us to take action, right? But there's no reason why we can't have an attitude that will help us achieve success as we journey on our life path. So on this show, an array of guests will join us, sharing their expertise on a variety of topics that can play a role in us living the most positive, productive, and proactive life possible. So come on in, settle comfortably into your favorite chair, pour a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and join me. The Positivologist is in the house. So I'm very excited about the guest that I have on the show tonight. It's Maria Costello, and Maria is an expert in past life regression. And I call her an expert based on my personal experience. I've had wonderful experience working with her and doing some past life regression work. And I think it's a topic that a lot of people are interested in. You might have had experiences where you walked into a room you've never been in before, or you've even been in a different country, and you have this feeling of familiarity, and just that whole deja vu feeling. And that could very much be you feeling a remembrance of a life that you lived in the past. And so it's going to be very exciting to hear Maria talk to us about her expertise in this particular area. So before I introduce her, I want to share a bit of her bio so you have a sense of who Maria is. Maria Costello is a bilingual licensed clinical social worker in private practice with over 25 years of experience. She received her BSW from Hunter College in New York City, and Maria has worked with a variety of clients and issues as a therapist, taught social work as an adjunct professor at a local university, and has appeared on television and radio. She was certified in hypnosis by the National Guild of Hypnotists and trained in past life regression with Brian Weiss, MD. And Maria is very honored to have been a contributing author to Dr. Weiss's latest book, Miracles Happen, Transformational Healing Power of Past Life Memories. And two of her past life sessions with clients were featured in the book. As a certified Life Between Life therapist, trained by Newton Institute and Michael Newton, PhD, she is available for private sessions as well as speaking engagements on this subject. And Maria's sessions can also be conducted in Spanish, which is wonderful. She'd like to offer everyone the experience of connecting with their soul and often leads workshops to familiarize individuals with regression to past life and the afterlife. And with that, I welcome you, Maria. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Lynette, for having me tonight. It is just an honor and a privilege to be on this special event tonight, your first show, and I'm just thrilled to be here to share this with you.
Well, and I'm delighted to see your shining face there on the screen. And we welcome everybody out there in TV land. So, Maria, let's jump right in and start to talk about this topic. And if you can tell us, what is past life regression and how was it developed?
Well, past life regression really got started because people were using hypnosis to regress individuals. So people would go into a session, be hypnotized, and remember some things from their childhood. And then people began to see that not only could you go back to your childhood, but you could also go back to the time when you were in your mother's womb and the time before your birth in this life, and remember past lives. And of course, the pioneer of this work, the one person who's made this really well known throughout the world, is Brian Weiss. And Dr. Brian Weiss is the author of Many Lives, Many Masters, a book that has been translated into many languages. And he explains his experiences with this one patient named Catherine. And it's a fascinating book. And past life regression has developed and expanded from that work. But other people also have worked with past life regression. Edgar Cayce and Sylvia Brown, Dolores Cannon. So, Brian Weiss has made it very popular, but other folks have done this kind of work as well.
So, Maria, tell me how you first became intrigued with this topic. You know, how did you come to be so involved in it, and as a result, help so many people?
Thanks. Yes. Well, many years ago, I read a book about Ericksonian hypnosis. And I was very young in my career, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to have to tuck this away and do it later. I'm too young still to be learning this." So many years later, I picked up the book. I don't even remember how. Many Lives, Many Masters. And I said, "Oh my gosh, now I remember. This is what I want to do." I remembered that I had read the book about hypnosis and that I wanted to learn how to do this kind of work. So I trained in hypnosis, and then I went to see Brian Weiss. And I was just fascinated. I had a one-day conference with him, and I said, I must do this work. So in 2001, I studied with him at the Omega Institute, and I've been doing the work ever since.
Well, you know, I have to just, I'll share how I was very young when I first realized I was remembering past lives. And I remember when I was really young, I didn't know what I was remembering. I just had these stories, I call them, these stories of places that I knew I'd never been. And then when I was about in junior high school, which was quite a while ago, I realized what it was that I was remembering. And it would be like, you know, there are certain eras like Egypt. And even when I was little, I would, if I saw pictures of it, if I went to the museum and I was looking at the artifacts, I just felt this connection and almost this longing. You know, it feels like, you know, home, home, home. So it's really incredible how I'm living in this lifetime, but I can feel very present in the past lifetime, and I can remember very clearly some of these lifetimes exactly what took place, and it just feels so real because we believe that it is real. We believe it is real.
Yes. Yes, and hypnosis is only one way to remember past lives. I mean, you had the memory spontaneously. Some people remember past lives in their dreams, but they don't know that they're remembering past lives. Some people can remember them just through meditation, through relaxation. I've had memories of some of my past lives when I've been receiving Reiki, or when I've been having a massage. So there's a lot of ways to remember. Hypnosis is just one of the many ways.
Well, tell me this: can anybody be regressed? I mean, do you have to have an openness to it? Can someone be sort of skeptical about it, but still successfully be regressed and then remember these past lives? How does that work?
Sure, you can be a skeptic, but of course, if you're someone who's practiced at quieting your conscious mind, you're going to do much better with regression and with hypnosis. Folks who do yoga, meditation, who have even done hypnosis for quitting smoking or other issues, they are going to do better with the regression. They're going to be able to see more, remember more, and be able to quiet the conscious mind, because that's what it really takes. So anyone who practices that can do it. And quieting the conscious mind can also happen through running, swimming, uh, knitting, painting, through music. A lot of people quiet their conscious mind in many different ways. They don't realize that they're doing so, but hypnosis is just one way to get there.
So, like, if someone came to see you, what kind of tips would you give them, or how would you prepare them to take them on this journey to these past experiences and places and people?
Yeah, well, I will tell them to practice whatever form of relaxation, meditation, yoga that they normally do. If they're a runner and they're used to running and going into the zone, as runners say, I'm not a runner, so I don't know. But those folks are quieting their conscious mind and being completely involved in their subconscious mind or their higher mind, their soul mind, however you want to think of it. And so any practice that people can do prior to the session is a wonderful way to prepare. And also there are CDs that Brian Weiss puts out. There is a YouTube that he has that's a wonderful way to practice and come prepared for the session that day.
How many past lives do people have? I often wondered this because I remember quite a few, but I think there's even more. And I don't know if there's a magic number, if everybody's different, but how would you answer that question of someone? How many times have I been here? How many times have I experienced these other, lives?
Usually I ask that question as part of the regression so people get an idea of how many lives they've had. And I'll just say, go with the first number that enters your mind. And, someone may say 27 or 27,000. Every one of us is different. Yeah. And we've had as many lives as it takes to learn our lessons. Some people learn really quick, and so they may learn in 4 or 5 lives. Some people may need thousands of lives to come back and redo the same kind of lessons over and over again. So we're each different in how many past lives we've had.
Do you have a sense of whether sometimes I'll hear somebody say, I'm done. I figured it all out. I'm not coming back again. I don't think I'm coming back again. I don't know. I mean, I think maybe I'd like to say I'm not coming back again, because to me that would mean I've learned everything I've had to learn. I've shared everything I've had to share, and then I'm going to be in this incredible, amazing place, wherever that might be, where everything's blissful and there's no pain and suffering. It's all light and joy. But I don't know if I've reached that perfection yet. But I've heard people say that they're done. So do you think we really have a sense of whether we've learned everything we need to learn and we've experienced everything we need to experience, so we don't need to come back again? Not that it's, always horrible being here on the earth plane, but it does have its challenges.
Yes, and some people decide that they're not going to incarnate on Earth any longer, and they're going to incarnate on other planets or other dimensions. I've had many people tell me that they're coming to Earth now because Earth is in its golden age and its golden time, and they want to be a part of it now. So there are other places to incarnate. And also, you may decide not to come anymore if you feel like you've learned all the lessons. But even those who have learned all of their lessons sometimes come back. Even guides come back and incarnate for a particular reason. So there's choices in this matter, if we want to come back and how many more times we want to come back. And we work on that on the other side. My life between lives work really informs me about that, because I've seen people discuss how many more lives they want to have and plan out their lives and discuss their past lives and what other lessons they want to continue to come and explore in the time in between their lifetimes. So it's fascinating, and every soul decides what they want to do.
Right. Well, what's interesting is sometimes I know I have encountered people in this lifetime that I knew in past lifetimes. And that's a very interesting feeling, too. And it's one thing if someone is kind of open to that and you can say, so, I think we were sisters in a past life, which I think happens. Do you encounter a lot of people who have had that experience of connecting with people here that they had experience? So, for instance, my father was a brother in a past life, and I mean, there's a whole range of people who I just know from before. And I believe, for instance, that we, as hard as it may be, if we don't have like great relationships with our siblings or friends, but I mean, I think I chose my family. I think I chose my, from past lives, and I actually sometimes think of looking into the future as well. But have you encountered people who know each other from past life experiences?
Sure, absolutely, and that's what people want to find out sometimes. Why does Uncle Joe and Aunt Mary give me such a hard time all the time? Well, they may have wanted to help you to learn some lessons, and of course, everyone wants to find their soulmate. Is my soulmate in this lifetime with me? And oftentimes, people have the misconception that soulmates are a lover relationship, and soulmates can be a brother, a sister, a friend. And we tend to come back with the same group of people. We do have what's called a soul family or a soul group. And we try to incarnate with those folks so that they can help us with these lessons. We make agreements ahead of time on who's going to help us with what. And, you come and be my sister next time, Lynette, and we're going to work on blah, blah, blah. So we plan all these things out. So when you encounter someone in this life, you often have made an agreement to signal each other in some way. Maybe it's a smile or a look or something in your eyes that will inform you that that's a soulmate. And so that deja vu experience that we often have about people and places is just that. Folks we've known in past lives.
Mm-hmm. What a wonderful extension of appreciating what we've experienced before in this life. I've also found that I have learned from hard experiences in past lives how to deal with them in this life. For example, I drowned in a past life, and I remember it vividly. I mean, I get chills even thinking about it. I remember what I was wearing. I know how old I was. I can see the environment I was in. I can feel myself going under the water. And in this lifetime, I cannot swim. I've tried to swim. I mean, granted, I'm from Alaska, and so, we don't usually go out swimming as a pastime because it's pretty chilly
Right.
outside. But I remember when I was like in junior high school, we had like one school that has a swimming pool, and we were required to take swimming, and it was just a terrifying experience for me because I could remember having drowned in this past life. So as a result, I have a very healthy, I love the water, but I have a very healthy respect for the water. And if I'm on a boat, I'm usually the only one with a life jacket on because, if I go under, I might not come back up. But it's amazing how you can re-feel something like that. And I remember some years ago when the movie The Piano came out, and there's a scene where I think it's Holly Hunter, and she's on a raft, and there's a piano rope gets wrapped around her foot, and she falls underwater, and this piano's dragging her down. And I remember looking at the screen and not wanting to look at it, but not being able to look away. I was just like drawn into it, and I could literally feel myself drowning. And so, as an awareness of why I had this fear or uncomfortableness, I've really been able to deal with it over the years. And now I can watch it on TV and all that, but it's great to know, because before I was like, what is my problem with water? I don't know what's going on. And then when I remembered that I drowned in a past life, it made complete sense to me. So it seemed like a gift in that way. Do you have any experiences you can share of other people who have had experiences from past lives really help them and guide them in their current and present life?
Sure, fears and phobias are very amenable to past life regression. That's one of the things that past life is used for. It's used for a variety of healing. It can be about something physical, something emotional, something spiritual, but fears and phobias that have no basis in this life are very amenable to past life. And it seems that when the person remembers the past life, the fear dissipates. And there have been many cases like that. One of the cases that appeared in Miracles Happen that I did with one of my clients was very clear cut. But let me tell you about another one, because folks can read that one in the book. I had a woman who came to see me who had high blood pressure, and she had a fear of having the blood pressure cuff put on her arm. And, so if you have high blood pressure, you have to have your blood pressure taken quite often. And she was just terrified. When that cuff went on, she would just be sweating and anxious, and she didn't understand why. Nothing happened to her in this life. So she came to see me, and we explored past lives. She was able to regress. She was able to remember. And it turned out that she died in a past life in a cave, chained to the wall by her arm. A horrible death, an imprisoned death. And once she remembered that, that fear really released and lifted. She also did some work with a shaman, and that helped to complete the process. So it was very instrumental in helping her to heal. And there are many stories like that, like yours. You have a healthy respect for the water, and your fear has diminished, even though you might still be respectful of, being out at sea.
Right, right. It's interesting you should say that, because when you talk about the woman and her arm, I was hanged in two past lives, and so
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger, if anyone came and touched me on my neck without me knowing they were coming, it would startle me to the point of me shaking. And as I realized, it's because I was hanged in a couple of past lives. I had an understanding of why that was happening. But you're right. It's like information. Information is power. Um,
Yeah.
so in your work, do you ever take a group of people to a particular time period as like a group exercise in past life regressions, or how does that work in a group when you're working with people?
Well, in a group setting, everyone is having their own experience, unless the group came together because all of them had an inkling that they had, say, had a lifetime in Greece or something like that. Then I
That's
would
one of my
do
past
that.
lives is Greece.
Yeah. So if everyone in the group wanted to do that, we could do that, sure. But usually in a group setting, people are having their own experience, and they're going to wherever the general statements that I make lead them, because I try not to lead the session in any way. I'm saying, look around you. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you know? Does this place look familiar to you? What year is it? So those kinds of questions are open-ended questions that would lead folks in a group to go to whatever they set the intention to do and to learn and to heal from.
Mm-hmm. So, Maria, how do people know whether what they're experiencing is really a past life or if they're just making it up? You know, because sometimes for me, when I shift from one life to another, it happens so quickly. I don't have time to sit there and say, "Oh, I was Queen Nefertiti in a past life." You know, I haven't experienced it that way. But I know people do kind of have that question of, "Well, how do I know I'm just deciding I was, such and such, or lived this kind of a life or this kind of experience?" How can you tell for sure that you're really experiencing a past life?
Sure, that's a question that I'm asked all the time, whether it be in an individual session or a group session. People want to know, how do I know that it was real? How do I know it wasn't my imagination and I was just making this up?
Right.
And I say to folks, you know what, if you were going to imagine a story, first of all, why wouldn't you imagine a story where you're a king or a queen or a princess? And the truth of the matter is most of us have been serfs and slaves and paupers and peasants. So there's number one. Number two is that oftentimes people experience an emotional reaction to what they're remembering. And so if they were telling me a story, I don't think it would be that easy to just conjure up those feelings and have shed actual tears or feel the fear of what was happening to them in that lifetime. And people feel fearful. Sometimes they feel things in this body that they experienced in that life. And so that makes it very real. And the third thing that I say to people is when I bring them back, I say, how much time do you think has gone by? And they have inevitably lost track of all time. And that's what tells me that they were in a deep level of trance. Because when you're in a trance state, you don't remember time. Time becomes irrelevant. And they'll say to me, oh, I feel like it's been like 15 minutes and it's been an hour and 10 minutes. So that's another way that I can tell that they were truly in a trance and remembering a past life versus making up a story.
I think for me, it's really amazing how quickly you shift from one life to another. So I recall being regressed. I've only been regressed a couple of times, but being in one life and being joyful and laughing and happy, and then the question being asked, have you seen everything you need to see? If you know everything you need to know, yes, and then transitioning into the next life. So I remember at one point being very happy, and then I transitioned into this life where I just started weeping. I went from joyful, happy to weeping. And I was this sort of old crone woman. I was very well respected and liked. I lived like up in the mountains in this sort of shack. And I had a bad leg, and I actually felt pain in my leg. And I was a healer. And so I was crying because I didn't know how to get the word out to even more people to come to me because I wanted to help them. I was helping them for free, and I was really very moved to do what I was doing. But I remember being so amazed at how I literally felt like I was in that body. I literally felt the pain in the leg, and I was crying uncontrollably because I didn't know how to reach out and help people. And it was just like, you're right. How can you make that? How can you make that up? How can you?
Yeah.
How can you do that? It's just it's the whole experience is just one that's really fascinating, and I think more and more people are intrigued and open-minded about that, because I certainly think that there's more to our experience than what we can, in the earth place, feel and touch and smell in this sort of earth groundedness. But I think there's so much more on these past life regressions and other dimensions and parallel lives and all that sort of thing. So, Maria, will you talk to us a little bit about the life between lives?
Sure, absolutely. We could do a whole nother show on life between lives, Lynette.
It feels kind of connected, so I'm curious.
It is. Absolutely, it's connected. So I trained with Michael Newton and the Newton Institute, and I'm a member of the Newton Institute. And Michael Newton was doing past life regression and helping people through that manner. He's a psychologist. And he discovered that people were not only remembering their past lives and then going to the death scene in that life, but they were then going into the afterlife. So they would leave the body of that past life and journey elsewhere. And he began to document these cases. And after he had about 700 or more cases, he published the book Journey of Souls. So
That's a
what
great book.
Yes, it's fabulous. And so, what Life Between Lives does is it takes you into a deeper level of trance. You do have to be able to achieve a deeper level of trance. And so, I usually start by doing a past life with people and then having them come on a different day to do the Life Between Lives regression because that session could be 3 or 4 hours long. And what that does is you remember a past life, you go to the death scene in that life, and from there, you go into the afterlife. The time in between your lifetimes, when you can meet with your soul group, you can meet with your primary guide, with your elder teachers, masters, guides, whatever you like to call them, and see what it is that you work on as a soul and how we review lives, how we plan for lives, how we are specializing in something on the other side when we're not incarnating, whether it be on Earth or somewhere else. We find out that we have specialties as souls and that we study together as souls so that we can prepare the next lessons that we want to learn in the next life that we're about to have.
Wow, that's
So
interesting.
it's just completely fascinating. And it just goes much deeper than past life regression. And most people want to find out their purpose in life. That's the number one question that I get asked all the time. And sometimes we can uncover that through past life regression, but the Life Between Lives regression truly can guide someone to continue the remainder of this life with direction and purpose, and knowing what it is that they came here to do.
So if someone were going to do the Life Between Life, would they do that session more than one time, or would just one time be enough to sort of get the information that they need to help them currently?
I find that most people only need one session. I call it the gift that keeps on giving
Yeah.
because the, the information that you get just continues to guide you for the rest of your life. And people often feel more connected to their guide, their primary guide, and then can connect and establish a connection with their guide that they continue to have on their own. They don't need to come for hypnosis. They don't need to do past life regression or Life Between Lives regression again. They have established a way of communicating, and I try to build that into the session to learn how to communicate with your guide so that you can continue to have that information given to you for the remainder of this life.
So I'm wondering if you find that, do you work with children, and if so, do you find them to be really open to this sort of thing? Because kids are. It's just like I love it when a small child says, "Well, yes," and I was talking to my angel, and I was talking to my guide, and I was talking to my grandfather, who was, and so I certainly encourage that sort of thing. It's wonderful if parents do that too. But sometimes I find
Sure.
children are just so they haven't been jaded yet. They're just open to all the different possibilities. Do you find that with young people?
Sure, absolutely. I don't really work with kids in terms of regression, but many people do. Many people do past life regression with teenagers and with children. And kids can spontaneously remember, especially if they're younger than 5 or 4 years old. Prior to that age, kids are just much more instinctual. They're not connected to their brain, they're connected to their heart and to their instincts. They're just much more connected to their soul self still. In fact, some people say that children leave their bodies and go back and forth to the soul state up until the time they're about 4 years old. So they can
Really?
easily, yeah, they can easily remember. And even when you're in the womb, you can go back and forth. You don't have to stay with the body the whole time. The soul can exit and come back, check in on the body, and then go back and check in on the body again. So children, having just come from that place, can remember, and they can spontaneously remember. If you ask a 3 or 4 year old, who were you when you were big? They can tell you. They can answer the question about their past lives. And you don't have to do hypnosis or regression. They just know. So, yeah, children are very amenable.
That's great
And
because we as
especially,
adults, we have to, we sit there, and we have to practice and force our soul out, and kids
that's
just
right.
kids just spread their wings and fly. I
Yeah,
know for me, when I leave my body, the challenge is that I really don't want to come back because it feels
right.
so wonderful to be free and everything's so effortless. And I was like, I don't want to come back, and they're like, you're not done yet. You have to go back into that physical body. But to know that, we can leave when we want and take a little journey out there is really amazing. So
Yes,
tell
it
me,
is.
Marina, if past life regression is connected to religion in any way. Sometimes I've heard people sort of wonder about that.
Right. Yeah, some people say, "Oh no, I can't do past life regression. That's against my religion." But really, it doesn't have any basis in religion. You don't have to believe in reincarnation in order to remember your past lives. Anyone can remember their past lives, regardless of their belief system. And and when they experience a past life regression, I think it's just much more powerful than believing in it. I just want to say that. But it's not connected to any religion or any dogma. Of course, Buddhism and Hinduism and other religions believe in reincarnation. But truthfully, even the Judeo-Christian traditions also had the belief system in life after life. It was taken out of the Bible. And so many people don't know that. And so there really have been in many religions a belief in many lives and that we come time and time again. But no, past life regression is really not connected to any of those practices or dogma or religious.
Mm-hmm. So you've been working with this for a very long time now. Have you found that over the years there have been more and more people interested in, connected to experiencing past life regressions? And if the answer is yes, why do you think that is?
Well, I have my theories about that, Lynette. I have been doing this work since 2001, and Brian Weiss since the 80s, and other people, Dolores Cannon, Sylvia Brown. But I find that people are way more open to this. And there's just a shift that has happened. Call it the age of Aquarius, 2012, I don't know what. But people are looking for more. People are connecting to their soul. People are meditating more. And people want to know what their purpose is in life, and they're much more interested in past life regression. I do sessions every week. I do group sessions and workshops. And even 13 years ago, I wasn't getting that many calls for this kind of work. So I'm not exactly sure what it is. I don't know. What do you think it is? Why are people more
I,
open to
I
this?
think I think people are open. I think there's an awareness. I think that the vibration is rising, and as more people
Yes,
are open-minded and living in the light and trying to live positively and share that kind of energy, I think it has an openness, and it sort of has the fear fall away from it. Sometimes there's kind of
yes,
fear of the unknown. I imagine somebody might be afraid to go back because they might discover something about themselves that they didn't like, or some horrible thing that they did, or some horrible thing they did to somebody else. I would imagine that some people
sure.
might be, I'm a little nervous about that. Because,
Mhm.
yeah, you don't want to find out you were, you know, out stabbing people and harming people. You definitely, I think, would want to find out that you were a healer, you were a kind, loving person. But I would
Right.
imagine, just like for me, it's been a whole variety of experiences. Some have been
Absolutely.
wonderful and good, and some have been, I was a gypsy in a past life, and I didn't kill anybody, but I wasn't a particularly nice person, and I love gypsies. I still have an affinity for gypsies. Every time I have to dress up for something, I love the bangles and the scarf and the skirt because it feels like home. But I was a
Yes.
little bit conniving and a little not so nice. What I wanted in that past life, and that's something you want to celebrate. But I own it. It's plus it was then. It's not now. But yeah, I just think there's in all sorts of different areas. People I think, are finding them to be more open, and I certainly appreciate that because you like to be around like-minded people. Um,
Yes.
that energy is just very invigorating and exciting when you can be around other people like that. But yeah, I think it's really pretty cool that people are more open to, again, more than the tangible. I can see it, feel it, smell it in this
Dimension.
earthly
Yes.
way. There's just so
Mhm.
much more out there.
Yes.
So I have also heard and experienced how past life regressions can help with healing. Or do you have any experiences you can share about people who have had past life experiences that have helped them to heal in this life?
Sure. Many people who are prone, for instance, to migraines or have an illness that can't be treated through medical means or naturopathic means often come for past life regression because they've tried everything else. The one fellow that whose story was told in the book, Miracles Happen, came to see me for migraines, and he had experienced 3 lifetimes in which he died from a blow to the head. And so, that would cause you to have migraines. And the most fascinating life of all was that his migraines in this lifetime began when he was 22 years old and in the Navy. And he remembered a lifetime where he was in the Navy, shoveling coal in the hull of a ship, and got hit over the head with a shovel. And that was one of the deaths in one of the lives. And of course, he was about 22, 23 years old in that life when he experienced that death. So in this lifetime, being in the Navy again and being at that age triggered those memories. And once he remembered these lifetimes, the migraines got better.
Wow.
So it's fascinating how this helps people to heal on so many levels.
Right, right. So if you're going to look in the crystal ball down the line there, um, how would you describe how you would like the culture to, as a whole, relate to and work with this whole energy and positive power of past life regressions?
Well, I think that I would love for more people to connect with their soul, and that's why I do this work. For me, it's a pleasure. It's always an honor and a privilege to be a witness and to facilitate, because really that's all I do. I'm just helping you to remember. And for me, it's a wonderful work because I'm connecting people with who they truly are. I'm connecting them with their soul. I'm connecting them to everything that they have been before, and their real nature, their higher self, their higher mind. And I would love more people to do this. I would love more people to experience it. And experiencing it is stronger than believing in it. Brian Weiss says that all the time. And when you have a past life regression, it's 10 times better than just reading it in a book and believing in it. It just connects you to who you truly are.
I think
And
it would be
we're just, souls who are having a human experience.
right.
And I think everyone needs to connect with that concept.
Don't you think it would be pretty cool if you could go into like an office environment and do a past life regression with a group of business people? Because often you think of this sort of thing, people think of the artsy people or the sort of, you know, I don't know. I don't know what they call people like us, but but to go in and work with people in that environment, because there's challenges and issues and problems in the work environment, which may very well
Sure.
be connected to some experiences that people have had in their past lives, and to go in and take people through that process for problem solving. Don't you think that would be pretty amazing or cool thing to do? Do you work with business type? What kind of clients come to you? What kind of people come to you for? Of course, you don't have to say any names in case there's any well-known business people who might not want us to know that they are into past life regression. But what's the
Right.
sort of fan of people that come to you and are interested in this topic?
Well, I think that it's just about people who are open. I've had folks from all walks of life. I've had surprises, people who are very scientific, who are doctors, who are engineers, people who are very analytical and researchy. And sometimes those folks struggle with being able to quiet the conscious mind, but I'm fascinated that they are willing and open to this. So yes, people in business, I would love to go into corporations and do group regressions, for people. Um, I think it would open up uh, to so many other dimensions and open people in so many other ways that people in business, people in politics, they need to be elevated to this vibration. And so I would love to have folks come who are not even open to it or who are skeptical and have them experience it. I think it would be wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Do you know of people who have discovered a past life, maybe in
Mhm.
some other country, and then they've actually gone to that place to see what it feels like to be and what they have been remembering, but they hadn't been able to experience because they live in Connecticut, even though
Right.
they remember Italy.
Yes. I've had many people who have gone to not only go to the places where they had a past life, but also look themselves up. Now with the internet, you can
Ooh,
maybe find
really? Oh,
yourself
that's
in a past
interesting.
life. Yeah, people have found themselves in a past life. They've gotten enough circumstances that they actually were able to do the research online and find out who they were. But sometimes it's the opposite way. I had an experience where I went to the Southwest in America, and I felt so connected there, so much a part of that area. And I said, I just don't understand why. And I thought, well, maybe it was because there was just such a Spanish feel to the place, and I'm Spanish, and so I thought that that was what it was about. But years and years later, when I remembered one of my past lives, I remembered that I had a lifetime in that area, the Southwest area of the United States. And it made sense to me as to why I was so connected to that area and why I felt so at home there. So it was really the reverse. I went there first and had sort of a deja vu experience, and then was able to remember many years later that I, in fact, had a lifetime there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I had an experience, and it really reconfirmed that for me, past lives they're real and they exist. I
Mm.
mentioned that I had always had this connection to Egypt, and I just knew that I had been there, and I remembered so much about it. I was a dancer, which is kind of interesting because I love to dance in this life. But I was a
Yes.
dancer, and there were three or four of us women, and we had very long hair, and there was like this steel cauldron, sort of a stone cauldron that had fire coming out of it. And so the skill was to dance and to go backwards as much as you could, but not let your hair catch on fire. Well, my hair
Oh,
caught on fire, and I was sort of,
yikes.
excommunicated, kicked out, kicked out of the circle, so to speak. And
Hmm.
then this young boy, a few years younger than me, actually sort of healed me back to life. And I survived.
Well,
Well,
hmm,
many years ago, and so I remember this since I was a child. Many years ago, I went to Mexico for 3 months with a friend. It was wonderful. We traveled all around Mexico, and in Mexico City, we met this really amazing woman from Belgium, and spent the afternoon with her and talking. And so we were talking about past lives. This came up as a discussion, and she told us that she knew this woman in the south of France who could tell you what your past lives were. And so you were instructed to send a picture of yourself, a nondescript picture, so like not a picture of me dancing or anything, but a nondescript
right.
picture. And then you could ask like 5 questions, and she would answer these questions, and she would also draw pictures of 3 of these past lives. And I said, oh, that's amazing. So I did all this, wrote all this up, sent it to the woman in Belgium, who then had to send it. Took forever, right? Then had to send it to the woman in the south of France. And so by the
Yeah.
time it came back to me, I'd forgotten I'd even done it. It was like 6 months later. But I get this packet, and I open it up, and I pull it out, and the first thing I see on the top is a picture of me in Egypt. She knew nothing about me being in Egypt.
Wow.
It had the clothes. I get chills even thinking about it. It had the clothes that I was wearing, and it had the head wrap that I was wearing after my hair had burned off. So I
Wow.
thought, what better confirmation can there be than to have an experience like this happen? And so it's like I already knew it, I already trusted it, but I was just like, wow,
Validation. Yeah.
this
That
really
was
happened.
validation because it was from another source that you were getting the information about a past
Right,
life, not just from your own memories. Yeah.
right, right. So I definitely wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
Unless she was like reading my mind from afar. But so Egypt is one of the few places I still haven't made it back to, which eventually one of these days I will. And the other is to
Yeah.
go to Greece, to Santorini, because I have memories of
Yes.
Atlantis, and
Yes.
that's going way way back. But I
Hmm.
think that there's just so much, like I said, that can make our life so rich and wonderful and enjoyable if we, open our minds and open our heart to these experiences. And I mean, what if we got to lose, really? I mean, I can't
Yeah.
think of any reason not to experience it, unless people are just, I don't know, if people ever showed up at your doorstep and they really, really, really want to do it, but they're afraid. I wonder if on a
Sure.
subconscious level, they know there's something, or they're remembering something on a subconscious level that they don't want to bring forth. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Sure, I think that people have a lot of apprehension because they don't know what they're going to uncover in terms of their past lives. But they also have an excitement. They come with both excitement and apprehension. And I think people fear that they're going to have a past life as you were saying before, where they've done something terrible. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, the body and the brain is going to protect you, and even your soul is going to protect you from remembering something that is going to harm you in any way in this lifetime. So you're not going to remember past lives where you've done horrible things to people if that doesn't serve you today. So most people will remember lives that are pleasant or neutral, with some difficulties, with some learning experience, but not something horrible. So yes, there's a certain amount of fear, but I also think that past life regression is something that's important because it helps people with their fear of death. Many people are fearful of death. And once you've had this experience, you realize that the soul continues, that there is nothing to fear, that we go on for eternity, for infinity. And
That's a
so,
huge. I mean, that's huge. That what you just said, because you're right.
yeah,
People are petrified of death. I mean, I'm not
yeah,
crazy about the idea of pain, but I am just not afraid of death at all because I just know there's something amazing on the other side. Just sit with someone. I used to be a hospice volunteer. Just sit with someone who is close to crossing over, and if they have been able to calm their fears, there's such a peaceful. There's such
yes,
calm. They see the
right,
angels and the loved ones that have crossed over waiting right there to greet them, and they just look so full of light, you know. So
yes, that's right.
I hadn't really thought of it like
Mhm,
that, probably because I'm not afraid
yes,
of death, but so many
right.
people are, and this is yet another way to
Mhm.
address that. Yes.
Sure. And not only that, but it brings people peace when they know that, let's say you had a past life when you died suddenly from an injury or an impact. You remember that your soul actually exits the body right before the moment of impact. And so
Mm-hmm.
when they know that and they've had someone in their life who has died a tragic or sudden death, then it brings them peace and calm, knowing that that person didn't suffer. They didn't stay with the body. They left seconds before the moment of impact or the moment of death. And I
Right.
think that brings a lot of peace to people.
Right. It seems like it'd be wonderful to have a way to share this in some way. You know, maybe somebody has a series of past lives and they make it into a one man or one woman show, or just somehow get the information out there to share it with people. Have you ever
Yeah.
had anyone who has gone to a past life and they've really thought it was amazing and wonderful, and they sort of take on that persona in this life? Do you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
maybe they really enjoyed living in the 20s or the 30s, and they I don't know, they start wearing clothes from that era, or I don't know.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if
Yeah,
that ever has
well,
happened.
I actually had a gentleman who was, again, it was the reverse. He was always fascinated with the 40s and Germany, and actually became a German language teacher, and just, you know, loved the music of the time, the clothing of the time, and often immersed himself in any way that he could with that time frame. And of course, he came and we uncovered a life that he had during World War II in Germany, and he was a German soldier in that life. So it was fascinating that he, for so many years, had this affinity for Germany and the language and the people and the culture, and so he continued to be fascinated. He continued to immerse himself even after he remembered the past life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mhm.
Well, do you ever find when people are taking the journey of the past life regression, do their guides ever come into it to help them move or travel around? Do loved ones ever come and you know
Sure.
take the journey
Yeah.
of the ride with them? How does that
Yeah.
how does that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, what I love to do at the end, if we have time, usually at the end of the past life, when I take them to the final lifetime that we're going to explore that day, and we witness the death scene, and the person leaves the body, I often take them to the other side or to the afterlife, whatever you like to call it, and have them meet with their guide or their loved ones. Sometimes people don't meet with their guide, but they do meet loved ones from that life or loved ones who have passed in this life, and so it's wonderful. It's so healing. It's so fascinating, and so peaceful for them to be able to connect with someone who's already gone to the other side or to their guide. And if they do meet up with their guide, I try to establish a connection between the person and their guide. A sign, a symbol, a smell, a sound, anything that will give them the information that that guide is always there with them. And so that they know if they see a deer, okay, my guide is here. My
Right,
guide is,
right.
she's guiding me, he's guiding me.
Do you have you had clients who have had such a wonderful experience in what you just talked about that once
Yes.
you bring them back, they say, I really didn't want to come back. I just
Yep.
wanted to stay there and have more of
Yep.
that experience?
Sure, many people do. Oh no, I don't want it to end. I want to go back there. And people can go back in a lot of different ways. After you open yourself up to this experience, I find that people are able to do it better on their own, especially if they meditate or they know how to quiet their conscious mind, or during a massage or a Reiki session or through shamanic journeying. There are many ways to remember, and people are more open after they've had this experience, and they can connect on their own.
Right. Well, that's a gift for people to know that they can come to you as an expert and do that, but they could also take the journey on their own.
Yes.
Um, some years ago, I was sick, and so I did some self hypnosis to put myself
Yes.
into this state of peace and calm and everything, and it was really pretty fascinating the way that that can work. So I think, yeah, people, we all need to realize our own abilities, right? We all,
Yes.
you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
we can be trained and we can come to you, but we could, I think the combination would be great.
True.
For me to
And
be
you know
able to
what?
do it to myself. But it's also, I have to say,
Yeah.
Maria, there's
Yep.
something about your voice. You have
Oh,
a voice.
thank
You
you.
you could just read the phone book, and I would be in a completely calm and relaxed state of mind and just want to stay there. So having past life regression sessions with you was wonderful. I just have to say that I think there's something about your sort of say bedside manner because they're sitting in close proximity, but just the calm and how soothing your voice is, and of course because you are so well skilled in what you do. Um,
Thank you. Yes, people tell me that my voice just goes with them.
it's like butter. It just melts
It's
like
like butter.
yeah, yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
So Maria, what kind of advice would you give somebody who um, wants to explore this more fully? Let's say they're hearing about this for the first time, so now they're
Mhm.
intrigued, and you said, yeah, meditate or become, but just what are some tangible steps people can take to be able to be open and get the most out of an experience that they can get by having a past life regression session?
Well, certainly they can read some books and become more open to this experience and learn more about what it's like. They can come and experience a group session, just sort of to practice. They can experience with CDs and with like a Brian Weiss YouTube, and just come with an open mind and an open heart. Because really, all hypnosis is really self hypnosis. It's the ability of your own mind to just relax and let go. So everyone can really do this. I really believe that they can.
Do you think that sound can play a role in helping people to get into that space? I know sometimes sound can, well, we
Sure.
know this for sure, the
Yes, we
power of
do.
sound.
Yes. Yes, because we do the healing vibrations and Reiki and sound healing. But I think that background music can also help. Sometimes I play music in the background when I'm doing the regression and when I'm getting people into that relaxed place and doing the imagery part, the guided imagery part. And so even just practicing with a guided meditation helps people to prepare for the session, and music can help people to prepare for the session. Sometimes a little bit of Reiki to begin the session is a wonderful way for the person to just, open up the chakras, open up the third eye, and be able to remember.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So we talked about how often people come back and they're energized and happy. Have people ever come out of the session scared and afraid? And if so, how does one calm them down so that they know that they really don't have anything to fear? Like something that happened in the past life more than likely isn't going to reoccur and happen in this life? How did one help somebody in that situation?
Well, during that time that they're remembering, that's where I come in as a facilitator because I can help them to just sort of like remove themselves a little bit from the scene and watch it as though it were on a movie screen. And afterwards, I sit with the person and process for a while too, and just help them to get back into their body, into their mind, into their conscious mind, and go over a little bit about what they've experienced. If they're shaken or upset in any way, that's where I come in to help them and to calm them and reassure them. Um, Oftentimes people journal after the session, and that's very helpful. They can remain in touch with me, and I can help them through with any questions that they may have. But I also build into the regression that they will come back feeling peaceful and calm and remembering everything. So that really kind of takes care of any kind of bad reaction that the person may be having either during the session or afterwards.
So, Maria, is there an explanation for why, let's say somebody got stabbed in their leg in a past life, but they're
Mm-hmm.
sitting here today in 2014, I guess, reliving this past life, but it actually feels like they feel the pain in their leg like they did 100 years ago. How can that
Right.
be?
I don't even know the answer to that, to tell you the truth, but I've had that experience. Rarely do people feel the feelings in the body, but if they are experiencing that during the session, I don't want them to be uncomfortable. So again, I'm there to facilitate not having that feeling in the leg or wherever in the body they're having it. But it's fascinating to me. I think it's just soul memories. That's the only
Yeah,
way that I can wrap my brain around it. Maybe there are many others out there who could explain that better than I can, but certainly it does happen, and it's rare. It's not the common experience for people, so I wouldn't want people to be afraid and not come because of that,
right,
because it's not common.
right. And I would think too, if someone, which is the whole soul thing is fascinating, if someone has a pain in their leg and they realize why they have the pain in their leg, it may very well go away because now you know what it is. And again,
Exactly.
information is power. Information is power. So
Information
Maria,
heals.
I can't believe our time is winding down.
It has
I
just
would
gone by
like
too
to
quickly.
I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how they can reach you, how they can connect to you, anything else you'd like people to know about this amazing world we've been discussing this hour.
Sure, sure. Come and experience your true self. Come and experience who you are as a soul and who you've been in many bodies. And I think it will open you up to so many other wonderful experiences in this world and to continue your life with renewed energy and direction and purpose. And you can reach me through my website, lifebetweenlivestherapy.com. I know it's a long one, lifebetweenlivestherapy.com, or you can call me at 203-445-8966. And I
Maria,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. It's been delightful to have you on the show. Thank you again
Thank
for
you for the
joining me.
opportunity.
And I want everyone to remember life is about bliss. BLISS. Believe life is something special because it is, and so are you. This is positivologist Lynette Turner. I will see you next time right here on The Positivologist is in the House.